coming live a little bit before we go to church. Church is starting in about an hour, so I'm going to try to wrap this tidbit up quick, before we have to go to church. But it's going to be a conversation that we're going to have for the near future, about human error in the Lilly and Jack Sullivan case out of Nova Scotia, Canada. If you are unfamiliar or related to this case about Lilly and Jack Sullivan, Lilly is 6 years old, Jack is 4 years old. They disappeared on May 2nd, 2025 from their home in Lansdowne Station, Nova Scotia, Canada, in a rural area. They lived on a property that was inherited to Daniel by his late father about a decade ago, and his mother resides there in a dilapidated RV with a bunch of dogs and cats. And just a really rural area. According to the parents, the children were awake, moving around the house. There are some new questions that are coming up related to the children between Thursday and Friday. However, according to the mom and the stepdad, they must have gotten out of the sliding glass door, which virtually makes zero noise, got into the backyard, and somehow got out of the backyard and wandered off. Now, is there human error in this case? And that is a huge question we're going to be debating for, I think, the near future. Good morning, Melanie. It's nice to see you. Lisa Ann, MJ, Phil, Michelle, Christy, Suddenly Sally, SPED teacher. Good morning, my loves. I hope you're doing very well. SPED teacher says, good morning, everyone. Happy Sunday. Getting ready to go to church. Just wanted to pop in and say, hey, BHB. Thank you for all you do, my beautiful friends. Coffee Club, much love. Well, happy Sunday. So have a wonderful day. West Virginia Holler Girl, Patty Lee, it's nice to see you. Susie Little, it's nice to see you. Good morning. Good morning. So this case here related to Lilly and Jack it's a very perplexing case, because if you look at the case as a whole, it kind of, you have mixed feelings about it. And there's no right or wrong answer to this case right now, because there's so limited answers and so much confusion. Because virtually we're looking at a situation where it appears that these children wandered off and got out of their parents' sight for maybe 20 minutes, from all the reports we learned early on. And to hear that we're here almost, tomorrow is going to be 30 days. These children have been missing or 31 days. These children have been missing for come tomorrow. And still no answers. They disappear about 20 minutes and no answers. But when you look at the case and start diving into the case, the questions remain. Where did these children go? Did these children wander off? Are they overlooking a potential abduction? We have a situation here where I'm not sure how my audience feels. Maybe it's a great time for a polling question. Can I do polls on here? I can start a poll. Let's see what our polls should be here. I can do a poll in this angle. So I'll have to think of the poll, what we should ask for the poll. But really what I want to kind of differentiate here is because I think the question is most of us must, I would assume, have a mixed feeling about the parents. Maybe that's what we'll do. We'll do the first question. Let's do a poll. Let's okay. So I just started a poll. Do you have mixed feelings about the parents and their behaviors? If you guys would like to take those poll, we're going to be asking several different questions. I would like to poll my chat to see where we're at, because I have this nagging feeling. Here's the situation, and we kind of explored it a little bit last night. Is we've got Daniel Martell. He's kind of taking the lead, the forefront, fighting for these children. He's answering questions in the media. He's not backing down. He's out there. He is the face for these children, whether people like him or don't like him. That is the reality of the situation. Daniel is the face of these children right now. Their mother has gone into hiding. At least that's the way. Maybe that's not exactly the situation, but that's how we, the public, are perceiving it. She's gone into hiding, which is always a very uncomfortable situation when we're talking about these cases. So we've got a situation here that we've got a stepfather that's not the biological parent taking the position to fight for these children publicly while the mother disappears, breaks up with him, changes her relationship status, and disappears from the spotlight. Two children still gone. Nobody knows where they're at. No evidence has been uncovered. Not one iota in over 30 days has been recovered from these children. No backpack, no shoes, no pull-up diaper, no boots, no nothing. Nothing has been seen or heard. Now, there are some boot prints. Were those dismissed too early in the case? Did they establish that there was no abduction too early in this case? Or are we still on the mindset that this story doesn't make sense, it defies logic, and the parents must know more? That's kind of where we're at. And I think that this is the same place law enforcement is at. I think this is the same place the community is at, because a lot of people are asking about this right now. Human error. And we can't be mean or nasty to people for human error. We all have human error. We're all human. And we all make critical mistakes in our jobs, in our life, and in every aspect, because we're not perfect people. Why? Because we're human. And just the fact that we're human, we're going to inherently make errors throughout life. In every single case we cover that's a criminal investigation, there are going to be errors. There's going to be mistakes that are had. We just pray that they're not critical mistakes that delay the case progression, that they're not critical mistakes that delay justice being served. Those are the things that we hope for going into this. But the idea that we're going to get a perfect criminal investigation is a fallacy. There's no such thing, because we're human. We're not robots. We're not perfect. We're not computers, right? So we expect to have some type of errors in any type of investigation. Nothing's going to run smoothly. Nothing's going to run without its problems. And there's not going to be any case that we're going to come across that has zero mistakes in it. We're going to have mistakes. But is this mistake human error? Is this correctable? Could they have saved these children's lives prior to them disappearing? Is the question. And I'm still on the same vein that I'm still looking squarely at the parents, but I'm also very much in tune with all of the other issues with this case. We do have a stepfather that allegedly passed a polygraph test, okay? That is not an easy feat for anyone. Now, could he have, we know that the polygraph system is not perfect. We know that it is just an investigative tool that's not admissible in a court of law. But at the end of the day, he did pass, allegedly. Now, we have no confirmation from law enforcement that that is true, so we have to keep that in the back of our mind, because there could be things like misunderstandings. He may misunderstand what they were explaining to him. He doesn't do polygraphs every day. He's not a polygraph administrator, right? He is just a stepfather that's missing some kids and wants the world to quit looking at him like he's got 15 heads. So the whole world is looking at him like he's got 15 heads, because we look at him like he's a monster right now, because we don't know who he is. We just know that we're hearing a lot of bad things, such as substance abuse, isolation, children, living in squalor, and him not working. And, we're looking at the situation and saying, is there more? But I'm also hearing that Malehya was overwhelmed. I'm getting reports that she was overwhelmed with 3 kids. And that would be expected. 3 kids are a handful. 1 child's a handful, let alone 3. And we're hearing that Jack was still in pull-up diapers at the age of 4, which, could indicate negligence and neglect of a child, not potty training him. But could that have something to do with his undiagnosed autism? I don't know. I don't know. So I wanted to read an article to you guys that I thought was important, and it kind of expresses my viewpoints on this. I like this particular outlet, CBA News. I like, it's just thought-provoking conversation, thought-provoking posts. And I like you guys, if you've watched me for any significant time, I'm all about the thought-provoking conversations. So let's go ahead and end the poll, see where we are. We had 64 votes. And an overwhelming 87% believed that they do have mixed feelings about the parents' behavior. And I'm right there with you. Let me ask this. Hold on. Let's go back before we get into this article. Let me ask one more question. Do you feel something is off with Daniel? Okay, here's a new poll. And it's, do you feel something is off? Do you off with Daniel? I mistyped there, but it's, do you feel off with Daniel? Is there something? Because my problem is he's hitting all the boxes in the right spots, and I just feel some type of way. I still feel like there's just something there, and then in light of this alleged polygraph and him passing it, makes me feel another type of way, and I don't want to beat up an innocent person. You know how I feel about that. We're here for the truth. We're here for transparency. We're here for justice. And the last thing we ever want to do is accuse or imply somebody responsible when they're not. It's, it's not something that we like to do, and we like to do at all. We want the truth. That's what the whole purpose of this all is. But there's just something, I can't put my finger on it, but it's just every time I hear him speak, it's just unnerving for me. And I have to look at that as a cue for me personally, like his voice is unnerving for me. When I hear his voice, I immediately get skeptical, and I don't know where that resistance and reluctance is coming from. I can't pinpoint it myself, otherwise I would. I'm just simply saying that just something for me is not right when it comes to Daniel, but Daniel seems to be the only one pushing these children, and I want to give him credit where credit is due, but there's a piece of me that feels like I can't, because I still perceive him as a potential monster. Now, it doesn't mean he's a monster. It's just, it could be all very much a misunderstanding. This could be something that Malehya did. Malehia's the only one missing outside of these children. And we have to look at that very critically. He knows there's a place there. Yeah. Female intuition. Maybe it is. Maybe it is. I'm not sure. Oh, hey, 357. It's nice to see you. That's a rough question. Yeah. And not only that, but it's one of those, it just shows you my indecisiveness when it comes to this case. And the indecisiveness when it comes to this case is just the lack of information. We really don't have a whole lot, because we're still in the, if stage, or what if stage. What if they wandered off? What if they were abducted? What if the parents did something to them? We haven't, just when we thought we were starting to hone in and define a clearer picture of this case, we had a bombshell thrown in. And that bombshell was the May 1st sighting. Now, I'm happy. Don't misunderstand me. I'm very thankful that they were alive and out in the public to be seen much later than April 20, 9th, I believe it is. But at the end of the day, they were seen May 1st, which is a good thing, because it went from both parents having to know something. If they disappeared before the 2nd, both parents would have guilty knowledge of that. But now that we know that they were there the 1st, that leaves us that evening, that afternoon. I'm hearing 3:17 was when they were spotted. They were seen on, and from my understanding, again, this is alleged because Daniel said it, and we don't know whether we can believe his statements. But the Royal Canadian Mounted Police were very vague in who the children were out with. But Daniel clarified it in an article, and Daniel's the one that said it was him, Malehya, Meadow, and Lilly and Jack that were out that day. And so when we hear that, we're all scratching our heads saying, what? You told us those children were home sick from school on Thursday. What are they doing out of bed in a healthy, happy, skipping around, looks like they're not sick environment of New Glasgow when they were supposed to be in school? So I don't understand. And if they were healthy enough to go out to New Glasgow and they were appearing to not be sick, why were they not in school on Friday in the morning? Why couldn't they go to school Friday? If those parents had gotten up and sent their children to school on Friday, we would not be in this situation. So why did they not send the kids to school on Thursday? And why did they not send the kids to school on Friday? If they were able to go all the way into town Thursday afternoon, it doesn't make sense. So let me go ahead and read this article. One tiny footprint that changed everything. Lilly and Jack Sullivan. I'm going to keep fighting for the rest of my life to find these kids. That statement is another statement that just doesn't resonate with me well. Okay? I'm going to keep fighting for them the rest of my life to find these kids. How do you know you need to fight for the rest of your life to find these kids? Those are the questions I have. That's the only goal I have at this point. Every day I wake up, it feels like I'm reliving the nightmare of May 2nd. The feeling of sadness have slowly turned into anger. And I understand that. I'm one of those people, when I'm hurt or I'm feeling some type of way, and it's a painful way, it manifests itself into anger because there's no evidence at all after a month. And it's really taking a toll. Is there truly no evidence? You know how I feel about no evidence. I know that there's a lot of new people that are meeting me for the first time because I'm covering this case, and you've never heard of Bullhorn Betty. Maybe you're from Canada or another country that's also following this case. But it does slowly turn to anger, but my problem is how does he know they have no evidence? And if they truly have no evidence and no scent, those are the same factors we have in the Sebastian Rogers case. And in my opinion, no evidence, lack of evidence, in my opinion, is evidence. To me, it equals, for me, it equals cleanup. And I never like to hear that. So after a month not having evidence, I'm not sure if that's the case. And if that's the case, we're in a lot of trouble with this case. On May 2nd, when Lilly and Jack went missing, people in Pictou County are struggling to understand what happened. Many people around this world are struggling to understand what happened. And why there are still no answers. I know they're working hard and using every resource available that they have. That gives me hope, because at this point, hope is all we have. On the morning of May 2nd, 2025, two siblings vanished from their Pictou County home in Nova Scotia, and the world seemed to stop. Lily, just 6, her little brother, 4. They said they had wandered away from their quiet home in Lansdowne Station, a remote stretch of land with more trees than people, more silence than sounds. Within hours, a full scale search was underway: drones, helicopters, canines, boots on the ground. They scoured over 5 square kilometers, but they found nothing. No footprints, no fabrics, no cries for help in a forest that should be whispering in clues. There was only silence. Sometimes silence is the loudest red flag of all, and so is lack of evidence. I'm sorry, but lack of evidence with 2 children, that's almost next to impossible. 6 and 4-year-old, they touch everything. They touch everything. How is there no scent of these children? Based on details gathered so far, we have confirmed Lily and Jack in the public with family members, and they keep saying this vague family members, the afternoon of May 1st, 2025, in New Glasgow, Nova Scotia, roughly 30 kilometers from the children's home. Malehya Brooks-Murray, their baby sibling, and their stepfather, shows them, and finally, this is where it says it. The surveillance footage shows them, the mother, Malehya, their stepfather, Meadow, and so that has been kind of confirmed in this article as well. The RCMP has confirmed that the video exists, but that there were, but that's where the clarity ends. What follows is 24-hour void, and in that void, 2 children vanished. So we're going to go on down here. If you guys would like to read the entire article, please go over to Facebook to CBA News, and you can read the entire article yourself. So I'm going to go further down in the article, and it says it's also where a boot print was found. Or let me go up one more paragraph. The search into the missing siblings, Lily and Jack, will resume in the morning. This morning, police announced that they will be joined by ground search and rescue teams and once again head into the wooded area. They'll focus specifically on Gerlach Road and the nearby pipeline. This nearby pipeline apparently is could potentially hold a lot of information. They did find a boot print by the pipeline, but they failed to state whether the boot print was a child's boot print or an adult boot print. And I think that this is important because in that wilderness, I truly believe there are people living off the grid that are terrible people that want to live off the grid because they're terrible people. And, these children and that terrible person could have crossed paths. We've learned this in the Dylan Brown case. There are terrible people that live off the grid. So is this a situation like that? We don't know. There are people that vanish in this country out in wooded areas all the time, and nobody knows where they go. Is it people living out in those woods, capturing those people? We don't know. Would it really surprise us if we found out that that was the case? Of course not. Of course not. But again, we need to find out some information. There is this pipeline. There was a boot by the pipeline. Is it an adult boot or is it a child boot? That's a boot print. That's what we probably need to be asking more appropriate questions. It's also where the boot print was found earlier in searches. The location, a narrow stretch of forest along Gerlach and the adjacent pipeline corridor. A place already combed weeks before. A place where something had lingered in plain sight but was never fully explained. A tiny footprint. That was the clue. According to Daniel Martell, 2 were spotted near the home in the early days and another more isolated near the pipeline itself. For weeks, the public wondered if those prints were real, if they belonged to Lily or Jack, or if they were simply part of the forest's many false promises. The renewed search wasn't framed as a rescue mission, not anymore. The language has changed. Carefully, deliberately, officials didn't speak of hope. They spoke of containment. They spoke of recovery. They spoke of evidence. And though no one dares say it outright, the implications hung heavy in the air. They weren't expecting to find the children alive. RCMP has asked the public to keep their distance, not because they're afraid of the interference, but because they need precision. Every blade of grass might matter. Every inch of soil could hold the truth. And in the truth lies the most painful possibility of all. The final pieces of this puzzle have been here the entire time, hidden not by malice, but by devastating oversight of human error. Is human error a factor in this case? And I think, again, from my intro, I think it's a great possibility that there are some factors that have human error in it, because humans are the ones that are investigating this case. And I anticipate them being human errors in any case that is being covered by a human. So, are there human errors in this case? I absolutely believe that there are. Are they up the right track? I don't know. Every day, you kind of have a really good mindset on how things are going. And this is one that I've been cautious about because I feel like I'm a fish out of water at being in Canada versus the United States, where I feel more confident and in my research abilities. And so I'm kind of looking at this case, and I don't really know the laws and the procedures of Canada. People, I don't think, really have a First Amendment right in Canada, or a second. They don't have the same rights we have, and that's what causes this cloud of confusion on what they're allowed to do and what they're not allowed to do in their processes and this, that, and the other. But I digress. At the end of the day, these children have vanished from their home. We don't know what happened, but I think we did dismiss those footprints too soon, because in light of all this, we do have a stepfather that is begging for the world to believe him. He has gone out of his way to proclaim that he wants a polygraph test. He took a polygraph test. He allegedly passed a polygraph test. But the only person missing is Malehya. And that is a very uncomfortable situation, because we all know all too well about Baby Q, about Leilani Simon and what she did while her boyfriend named Daniel Youngkin was sleeping. She unalived her child and dumped him, left the home, put him in a garbage bag, and took him to a dumpster and dumped him, all while her boyfriend slept and had no clue whatsoever what had happened. Got up, went to work like nothing ever happened, gets a call that his girlfriend's youngest son was missing, and he jets out of work and heads home. And you can see the light bulb literally go off his on top of his head, because they had the body cam footage, and they asked her about leaving, and she starts talking about Oragel, and he kind of just looks at her. And that was the moment that I think he realized she left the house that night. Nobody else left the house but Leilani. So I've been listening and going back to Malehya's first interview, because that's all we have of her. And it sounds like she was the one that prompted Daniel to get up to go look for the kids. Are the kids quiet? Did you hear the kids? And then everything from that point forward. So did Daniel fall asleep and Malehya get up and do something? I'm hearing she was overwhelmed with the 3 kids. I don't know. I think that there's more to the story that we don't know about. I think there are some details that we're not looking at. Is this going to come back to the parents? It usually does. It usually does. But for right now, I think there's enough confusion out there that we probably need to pump the brakes and get a good understanding on the 3 major theories: wandering off, abduction, and foul play. And I think we need to look at all of those equally, because every time we turn around, we're hearing a little bit of news that's supporting more of Daniel's story. And we can't look past that. Even though we feel some type of way about Daniel, every time we turn around, there's a little more information supporting a little nugget of his story. So we have to start paying attention to that. Is there something else going on here? I don't know. Did Malehya do something? At this point, I would think that she's more responsible than he is. But again, I have distrust for Daniel for a variety of reasons. There's just something off and off-putting with Daniel that I can't get past. So we also just did a poll on that, and the poll was, do you feel off with Daniel? And an overwhelming, well, it's not as overwhelming as the first poll, but we're kind of a little above 50-50 on that question, where people believe that there is something a little off-putting, but some people don't believe that there's things that are off-putting back about him. SPE teacher says, I believe, in my opinion, the mother knows exactly where those kids are at. She prompted Daniel to look for those kids so he could be the one to discover they're missing. It's possible. It's possible. Trees was saying she saw on a Canadian podcast Daniel was texting with a girl. Interesting. Outer Banks, can you, if you come across that or a link to that, can you send that to me, bullhornbetty@gmail.com? I'd greatly appreciate that. I'd greatly appreciate that. Good morning, VA. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're doing well. So those are the questions I have. Daniel is talking. He was texting last night on a podcast. Well, if you guys can send that to me, send it to me at bullhornbetty@gmail.com. I know that there's a few podcasters that do have some good connections with the grandmother. I'm very curious because listen to this. The grandmother has no reason, not the other grandmother, not the children's father's mother. I'm talking about Malehya's mother. Malehya's mother is also one that's not speaking to anybody, and I'm just finding that whole situation bizarre. You got a daughter and a grandmother. It is screaming to me, Leilani and BJ. Remember BJ Howe? Her mom. This is really, I think we need to go back and look at the Quentin Simon case. I really do. I think this is starting to it's either these children truly in fact wandered off, they were abducted, or their mom or their stepdad did it. I truly believe it's one of those three theories, and those are but at the end of the day, statistics and behaviors are leading us to believe that the mom is not acting right. Is the stepdad acting right? I believe he's acting right. I believe he's begging the world to believe him. And I feel bad that I just can't wrap my head around it right at the moment, because I would love nothing more than to believe Daniel, but there's just something that's in my stomach. There's something in my gut that's not allowing me to fully believe him or his story. And I don't know what it is, but it's something I'm going to have to work on. It's interesting that Daniel is saying, yeah, it's a crime and shame with Sonny and Charmaine. He was texting Charmaine. Okay. All right. Thank you, Mary. I appreciate that. In my opinion, screaming mom knows. Yeah. Well, that tells me they were split before the kids went missing. They were definitely have some problems in their relationship for it to be that quick. Kids disappear, mom leaves, and relationship's over. It's it's perplexing for me. This whole case is perplexing. Usually we have a good understanding 30 days in or a direction, but again, that May 1st really did throw a cog into the wheel. And it's okay. I mean, we're here for the truth, and sometimes the truth is more difficult to get to. But something's fishy, Mike says. Yeah, I agree with that. So Daniel was texting information with a YouTube person, not another woman. That's what it sounds like, Outer Banks. Allegedly money problems. Nobody was working. I heard he got that property. His dad passed away about 10 years ago, and he acquired the property through an inheritance. And his mother, his crazy mom's been living on the property ever since. Now, the reason why I say his crazy mom, because she's everything that's been described is describing a crazy cat lady. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm not gonna. I don't mean to be disrespectful, but she's living in a dilapidated freaking RV with the roof caving in, and she's got something like 10 animals. It's quite disturbing. Okay, so they must be selling things. They might be. They might be. She was bringing in big money with 3 kids on assistance. Gotcha. So she was basically so he was living off of her. Everybody was living off of her then. It sounds like. Daniel's father is alive. I just read an article that he got the property from an inheritance. His biological father or maybe a stepfather or something had died, passed away 10 years ago, and he acquired it through that inheritance. They said father. But is it possible that he has a stepfather? Because I don't know. I read an article that said it was his biological dad or something like that. I'll find it and I'll read it. I'll bring it back. I just read it this morning too. So it shouldn't be that hard for me to find it. All right, guys. Well, it's almost time for church, so I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. We will be coming back this afternoon. We have a call-in show. I'm not sure what time I'm going to be setting up that call-in show. If you guys would like to be part of that, yep. He's fishy, but not quite like Ed. I agree with that, VA. I agree with that 100%. Fishy with a fucking space. They have nice warm clothes. But I looked at some of the photos, and there's a photo. I'll have to go back, and maybe I do have it, but it's going to be too hard at the end of this show right now to go through it. But there's a photo of them sitting on a quad inside a store. And you see all these photos of them in 2021, 2022. They look cute as a button, hair done, great clothes, clean clothes. They look well taken care of. And then this one photo of them sitting on this quad, this four-wheeler. Lily's in the front, and I believe Jack's in the back. And they don't look like we're accustomed to seeing them prior to 2022. They looked like they were in clothes that were, not these kind of clothes. They just didn't. They look like they were out in the country, kids. I mean, I've wore clothes like that to go out to my grandfather's house and stuff like that. But when you see a whole bunch of photos like this, and then the last photo you see is of these kids looking, with dirty clothes and hair a mess, it really does define kind of how this family is functioning, in my opinion. 2 years ago, their mom was bright-eyed, taking pictures, so proud of Jack, so proud of Lily. And then we have this situation. I will tell you, I'm praying to God that those children are out there in the woods. I don't want to think that a mom or a stepfather or anybody that knows these beautiful children could do anything to them. I just don't want to believe it. We go through so many cases, and it's upsetting because it's the same story, just different faces over and over and over again. And I'm praying just once that one of the storylines are a little different, and I'm hoping that this is the one that's a little different, but it doesn't seem like it's going to be. So we'll just keep chiseling away at this story, chiseling away at finding the truth and uncovering the truth. If you guys find factual information, please make sure you send it to me. Even if you think I may already have it or may already know it, I might not. I'd rather have too much information than not enough information. So if you guys come across some stuff, please don't forget to send it to bullhornbetty@gmail.com, bullhornbetty@gmail.com. All right, guys, we'll see you soon. I'll see you later this afternoon, and we'll have the computer up and the phone lines open so we can just kind of chit-chat together. All right, guys, I love you, and we'll see you soon. Rock it out with your coffee beans out.